All right, plus sides friends. Today we are going to be talking a lot about menopause and mysterious lady parts. So if you have little ears in the room and you don't want them to hear a lot of the things that we're going to discuss, especially around intimacy, this might be a good time to press pause and come back later. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. We learned so much about our bodies, and I just love you so much. So thanks so much for your support. Hey, GLP-1 plus sides community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. How you doing, Kat?
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
Hi, where have you been? Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. I'm so happy to hear from you, see you, all the things, audience.
Yes. We are going to have a special episode today about hormonies. And sorry, that's what they call it in the Big Fat Greek Wedding. Remember that movie? Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Oh my gosh, it's been
She was
about
like,
20 plus
have
years.
the hormonies because of the babopsy. You remember that?
It's a long time.
That was a good movie.
I've actually have seen.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Anyway, since we're going to talk about today, because I'm not going to lie, guys, perimenopause is a bitch. And I'm going through it. Kat's going through it. I will say, like, we've had it's been a big difference since we started, both of us, I think HRT, but it's a constant like ebb and flow. And I just want to know more about it. And I figured a lot of you do too.
Yeah.
Whether you're choosing to go that direction or not. And so that you feel good and secure. And we've had a lot of things happen like in the news about HRT recently and removing warnings. And I just think that we need to dig into it more and provide you guys that because we're all like most of our listeners are going through that phase in their life. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But if you're new here, we usually have podcasts about GLP-1s, but our podcast has really grown into a health and wellness for people who struggle with metabolic disease. And this is just such a big topic and an area of interest. And so we're gonna talk about it today. So, but that's why we're here and what we do. We are education and advocacy podcast. Kat, do you want to say hello? Tell us.
Hi, everybody. Hello. I am in the perimenopause. I don't know if we're going to talk about our GLP stats as well. So I have been on the Tirzepatide, 100 pounds in 3 years. I hit a stall for 2 years, and I would likely blame that on perimenopause. In fact, I started to creep up. I gained about 8 to 10 pounds. It would not go anywhere. It was like fighting life to keep it static at that weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, plug, I went to Winona.
Plug. Me too.
And wow, what a difference.
Yeah, what a difference.
Back to normal.
I will say too, like since we are little GLP, so I lost 110 on GLP, started all of a sudden just like snacky AF, bloated, all right in the middle, regain. And I was like, what's happening? And this is what was happening. Also went to Winona and it helped so much, like no more hot flashes, no more snacking, no more like fits of crying. Like, so it's just been really, really helpful. But There is a lot to this, and you guys deserve to know all the things. So let's dig in, eh?
Take it away.
Look at that. 2 minutes and 45 seconds for our intros today. Huzzah, huzzah. All right.
Yep.
We're going to invite in our first guest. We have two, so hang tight. Hey, Kelly, how you doing?
Hello.
We're so glad to have
Ooh,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
ambassador.
usually the way that we do our stories is we think that like there's enough of inauthentic things out there that are edited and chopped and created and all of those different things. And we just prefer to keep it like free flowing and authentic and just give you the space to tell your story.
Love
So
it.
we would love to hear it. And then we'll invite in our other special guest. How's that? Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, after losing 100 pounds on GLP-1s and keeping it off for a long time, I started regaining out of nowhere and I was terrified. But I also started having hot flashes and bouts of crying and snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. unable to go back to sleep. It turns out I was in perimenopause. So I started hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, through a telehealth called Winona that specializes in this. And it changed everything. And now I'm sleeping better. And my hot flashes are all but gone, thank God. And I feel like myself again. And it turns out that you can actually start perimenopause as early as 35. And well, I'm 46 and she's here. HRT has really come a long way and there's just no need to suffer anymore. So if you're like this and you're in the same boat, you can check out buywinona.com and you can use the link in our link tree to save some money.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper, with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
I love it. Okay. So yeah, I'm Kelly Miller and I became, I guess, perimenopausal at 42, but wasn't really aware. I just started having like a lot of weight gain that I was always been active. I always been healthy and kind of that 10 pounds of like, where is this coming from? And it wouldn't go anywhere. And my cycle started to get real wonky. Like it would be early, late. I was always a regular person. So I went to my doctor and they were like, oh, you could be low on progesterone. We'll just throw you on birth control. And I was like, I do not want to do that. I am 42. I've been long gone, not having to worry about that stuff. So I was really disappointed and kind of just frustrated. And I kind of figured it out for a little while, did some intermittent fasting and worked really hard in the gym. But then it kind of reared its ugly head again about 2 years later. And Winona had popped up in my Instagram feed or something like that, probably. And I just was for about a year, just kind of peeked into it, looked into it. And finally I just got really frustrated and I was like, let me just find out what this is. And within 48 hours of getting on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, it was completely different. It was wild. So my biggest, scariest symptoms was really major fatigue where I had to like pull over in my car and like take a nap one day. Like literally was like, I cannot drive. That happened 3 or 4 times. And then I had brain fog so bad that I was actually like Googling on early onset dementia. Cause I would look at like a lamp and be like, what, that thing that turns on, it's bright. Like I could not tell you the name of the lamp. It was really freaky. And it all had to do with my hormones. Isn't that crazy? So, I ended up finding Winona, got on the DHEA, which is the morning regimen that I have. And then I do the 50-50 cream. And literally within 48 hours, I was sleeping through the night. I didn't have the brain fog. The fatigue was gone. The weight started to come off. It was unreal.
That's
And so I've
awesome.
been with them for a little over a year.
Yeah, that's great. And do you feel like within that year, do you feel like yourself again? Because like that's something I hear a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always been a real moody person. In fact, it's kind of a joke. When I was pregnant, I was even Steven. So we're like, let's just get you pregnant again. So that has always been kind of this like really frustration and tension in my life. Like when my cycle's coming around, it's like, oh, look
Mhm.
out. And there was a level of anger that was welling up that was just like, what is this? Or that, like you were saying about the bloating, and like I would come home and dream about having chips. Like all I could think about was
Mhm.
potato chips.
Yeah.
Like That's not my MO.
Yeah.
So since HRT, those things have subsided. I do feel like it's not a perfect solution. I feel like there are times like last year in January, my husband was gone for a solid month and I really got super depressed. And that's not like me. I'm not a codependent person. And it really got me into real like deep just sadness and it was like, what's going on? So I just had to kind of pay attention to what I was eating, how much I was moving, and so you kind of feel like a walking science experiment. You're like, hey, okay, it's working. Now it's not. What's wrong? So, and I did adjust my DHEA. And I even added a little supplement of testosterone and that seemed to help. So I just
Mm,
have been reading books and learning and, listening to podcasts like yourselves to just kind of like, what is this? How do I navigate it? Because my mom was not helpful. She didn't know about menopause
Yeah.
at all, perimenopause. She found a book in um, like a gas station
mhm.
and was like, "What's wrong with me?" And she finds this book and she starts reading it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is what's wrong with me." Poor girl. She's 45 years old and no one had ever even brought that word to her
Right. Isn't
mind.
that crazy? So,
Yeah.
like, just women have been around for millennia, millennia and millennia, right? And we are just now getting somewhere. There was something like what back we're scratching the surface from like the 90s. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
we've been around though. We've been around for a long time.
Do you remember, like, because I'm just curious. So, like, for example, my experience with my mom, she was very similar to how you're describing. Like, she was regular, she had kids, moody. Sorry, mom. And then and better when she was pregnant, mostly because she was eating cinnamon rolls a lot. And then I remember like when this happened, she sort of like gained weight overnight. I'm air quoting listening friends. And when that happened, she I remember her bending over to tie her shoe, like me watching this as a teenager, right? Her bending over to tie her shoe and crying because she couldn't reach it, you know?
Oh,
And that was hard for her because she was very fit, very active, very healthy, like all those things.
yeah.
And she's like, "What is going on?" Right? And luckily she was like, "I'm not dealing with this shit." Right? So that's just my mom, right? And so she goes to the doctor and they put her on hormones and she was like, I talked to her about this recently since I've been going through it. And she was like, "Oh yeah, it was better like almost immediately." Right? And she's still, even now, 70 years old, takes like a low dose of something to help. And she's like, I
Mm,
think she takes it like every other day. But when she told me she took it every other day, I was like, every other day. But now that I'm going through this, I see it's because we still fluctuate, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, and it's complicated. I'm wondering,
Yeah.
like, in through this year, do you feel like throughout, because do you still have a cycle? Is that okay to ask? I think I have.
Yes. So
Okay.
I have so my husband got fixed when we had our third kid. So I haven't been on birth control since I was in my 20s.
Mm.
And I was a surrogate 3 times. So that kind of like funny joke, we were
Right.
like, let's make this happen. And I
For
was
more reasons
pregnant
than
3 more
one. Bring
times and
blessings
I
to the
loved it.
world and yeah.
So yeah, so I've always been regular. Short cycle, 3, 4 days, like just, and I'm so grateful for that because I have a lot of friends who have, other
Right.
issues. And so
Mhm.
that's why I kind of use that gift of my fertility for other people.
Aw.
But yeah, so now it's this last year, it's nice to be back on a schedule. And there have been a few moments where I'm like, whoa, my period lasted a whole 7 days. What's going on with that? And I just, kind of have just done, just kind of wait it out and then it goes back to normal. So yeah, it's just, you just never know what's going on with your body. And I know like people talk about, I'm not a doctor. So I know Dr. Kat might
Mhm.
help us out with this, but I do know that like, just provide, solving the symptom problems rather than getting blood tests and all of that. I know I struggled with that with Winona. I was like, should I go with them? They don't even do a blood test. And the more I listened to experts, it was like, just just take care of the symptoms one at a time. And that's just kind of what I do and what I have been doing. And it seems to be working.
Yeah. I mean, we've had,
Right.
in all fairness, like we have had other midlife experts, if you will. I think that's kind of where they're trying to focus on now is that have
Mhm.
come on the show that are like endocrinologists and stuff to talk about GLP-1 that have validated everything that Winona has said and done. Like it's so I that honestly, like your hormones change every day, right? And I think that's important for us all to know because it's going to have these moments. And it's like sometimes I find that like right before my cycle, I may need more, or I might need less. And I haven't quite figured out what my formula is yet. You know what I
Mm,
mean? But it does seem to be fairly consistent. that I sometimes I'm just like way more like snacky and tired. That exhaustion thing, Kelly, man, that is real, right?
It's real.
It's like, yeah, it's like
So real.
first trimester exhaustion, right? Like when you're,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
when
A
you're
lot of the things that
right?
I've experienced, it's like, oh, this is like the first, like trimester or some, of your pregnancy where I remember when I was pregnant, one of my kids, I was making whipped cream, and I was using whipping cream, but it wasn't whipping. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? For like 20 minutes, I'm trying to get this to whip, and it was half and half. And it was just like, how did I put half and half in here? So it's like, we've all been there, but to have
Yeah,
it to be a daily issue
that's the
is
problem,
just
right?
no fun.
Yeah, and because then it's like, how do you enjoy your life? Like, we're halfway through it, friends. Like, we need to be able to enjoy the rest. This is when we finally have a little money. Like, we need to be able to enjoy ourselves, you know? I think it's
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
important. Yeah,
They're just ready to send us out to pasture. That's
yeah.
what we
Yes.
used to do. Just,
Well, and
Seriously.
that's why
I'm in full Perry. Like, I haven't had a visitor since 25, but,
okay.
Has it been
I,
a whole year? Has it been a whole year?
How was
no,
that?
'cause it arrived in October, and I was like,
Yeah, mine's
yeah,
still
because 'cause I'd
comes
gone,
every
like,
month.
9 months. Um,
So you
but,
were so close, but not
She was
there.
so close.
yeah,
I
I'd
know.
gone, I was like, "Oh
She
my
made a funny
god."
TikTok about it.
Yeah, I used a good movie quote.
Yeah.
It's so
And that
funny because I never thought I'd be excited about menopause because I
yeah,
feel like when I was a kid, menopause was like this old lady thing. And I remember,
Yes.
my grandmother, if I remember when I had my cycle when I was at her house, she didn't have anything to help me out because she was already through that.
Yeah.
And so I always envisioned it so much later in life. And I don't know if you've listened or read Brooke Shields' book. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but it is a
I
great
do like
read. And she talks a lot about menopause. And she makes me excited for it because it's like you have this new experience where you don't have to worry about this cycle where you had to plan your vacations around, or, it interrupts just so much of your
true.
life. And you're like,
You
you
have
don't have to worry about
surgeries,
it. It's
right?
over.
Like,
And then you
mhm.
have brain cells coming back and you have bandwidth coming back, like all this. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like I'm excited for the next stage of life instead of like, oh, what is this thing called menopause?
I have
Right?
some friends that have gone through it, and they've been like, "I don't know how to tell you this. It is hard going through it." And they're like, "And even when you get past it," they were like, "But you really don't give a shit about what people think about you ever again after you go through it." Everybody has told me that. They're like, "You don't care
So
what people think of you
interesting.
anymore." Like, and I feel like every year I care a little less, although I'm in on the internet, so it's always hard when you get feedback, you know? But that's what I'm told, and I'm like, "That's what I'm aiming for." No period,
You're
and
getting
not
there.
caring what people think about me,
You're getting
you
there.
know?
Yeah,
I love it.
you're
Yeah.
getting there. I think
Yeah.
that hit, like, when I was, like, I hit 40, I started, like, around
Yeah.
44, I was like, I don't really care. I'm just gonna be an
Yeah.
absolute buffoon and fool. I don't
Yeah.
care if anybody sees it,
Kat
so
and I talk a lot about like, I think I'm a perpetual people pleaser and I'm not a recovery. I'm working on it. Thank you, Jesus, in therapy, but I'm working on it. It doesn't help being on the internet, you know? But I would say like Kat and I talk about it and I'll say to her, like, she'll be like, Kim, we're the same kind of like neurotic, but you're just a little more than me. And I was like, no, I'm just less secure than you are. And I'm like, you're further along in your life and journey than I am. Not that much, but hormonally she is. Maybe
yeah.
it's the menopause. I
It
tell her,
could be the
seriously.
hormones. There's one thing I did wanna say because you said, like, an
Yeah.
appetite that came out of nowhere.
Yes.
Um, it's the most frustrating thing when you're in peri because you know how you get that premenstrual, I want to have all the carbohydrates and all the food, and then your period comes, and then it dissipates.
Mhm.
Except mine never came because I was in peri, and that was the point where I was like, it never comes. It's the never ending story.
Yeah.
And
It was
then
really hard, like, and
yeah.
I was so thankful that Kat had already gone through this, like, the year before because we were traveling we're obesity advocates, so we, like, go to DC, we go to we go to advocate, go to the Hill,
Mhm.
we go to conferences and things like that, Obesity Week and these anyway, we do these things, and we went on this trip, and while we were there, the place that we were at had the most amazing food. And I'm on a GLP-1. So I've been on a GLP-1 3.5 years. So it's like, I'm not a big like, let me go and like have all the things. Usually if I do, I'll have a few bites of something and and like I kind of graze that way or just have some small meals, right? But this is when it started to hit. And I had gained 10 pounds like all of the
Oh, it
sudden
was
this
DC. I was like,
entire
"Is it New
time.
York or DC?" But
Yeah,
yeah.
it was DC. It was DC. Yeah. And when we were in DC and I was just like sitting on my bed, just like crying. And Kat was like, listen, it's okay. We're going to get you on HRT and everything's going
We're
to be okay.
gonna get you to
And she's
Winona.
right. She's right. The hot flashes, the snackies that were out of control, continued weight gain, stop the weight gain. So like all my friends that are listening and all of our listeners that are listening, right, or watching, depending on what you do, most people listen, that are listening to this, if you've hit a stall, right, on this journey, right, or you have hit a regain and you are in this age bracket and you have all these additional kind of symptoms that we're going to talk about today, or some of the ones we've touched on, consider this, like legitimately. And Kat, you have a good story about breaking your stall, right?
HRT.
HRT broke your stall,
It helped
right? Yeah,
quite
it
a
helped
bit.
a lot. How long was your stall?
2 years.
2 years.
I
Two
lost like
years.
60, 70 pounds and then 2
Yeah.
years.
And she is an avid, like she cooks, she exercises constantly. She's a cycle girl. She's all about the fitness, and she wasn't losing anymore. She was just
I
done.
mean,
Got
rightfully,
on HRT.
the cooking may have gotten me in trouble because I do like to
Maybe.
cook,
She does like to bake.
but, yeah.
Snackies. The snackies make you bakey.
But there
So,
was
yeah.
it was
But
mhm.
that worked for you because now she's down 100. So she was 70,
Oh,
stalled for 2 years, got her hormones straight with HRT, and it was like her GLP-1 started working again, and then she
that's
got down 100.
awesome.
I
Yeah, and
know.
Um,
Winona's in our link tree, just FYI,
Oh,
just
yeah, FYI. Winona is like they are like, "Why we're
me too.
plugging Winona?"
right,
Like, and
Kelly,
it's
we're all on
great,
one.
like, because you
I'm
can
on
chat with the
Winona.
doctor and ask the questions, and it's just great.
Mhm.
Like, anyway, enough plugging.
I
Let's
know.
talk about why
Let's
this
talk
is all so.
yeah,
What do you think? Let's invite in our doctor guest. Let's do. Well, hello, Dr. Cat.
and that's Dr. Cat.
Hello.
I am not a doctor.
Dr. Cat Brown, not Cat, Dr. Cat Brown with a C. Cat.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Hi, we're so glad to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me again. It's great to see you
Right.
ladies again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that what might be good for people maybe that didn't see last season or see your episode, because we get people all the time. Can we just talk about a little bit about who you are and how you help people?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a board certified OBGYN physician and also an Army vet. But I have spent my lifetime, in my career, basically taking care of women and women's health. And much of our careers as obstetricians and gynecologists we spent a lot of time on pregnancy and fertility and managing periods and all kinds of things. And it's funny because what we know is that a lot of women, a lot of doctors don't get a lot of education about perimenopause and menopause. And that was true for me too.
Yeah.
Until I started going through it myself. And then I was like, what in the ever loving, what is this?
Mhm.
I think all of us think we're going to be fine until we turn 50.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen overnight. And like you were saying earlier, Kat, we always, and Kelly, we thought this was like something with older women, you envision like the Golden Girls and,
Yeah.
it's that generation. And we just don't think that it's us, in our 40s, but it hits you so hard. And sometimes the symptoms are so nebulous, it's really hard to know. But anyway, that's how my journey kind of began, is that I started doing a deep dive as a physician to try to learn more to help myself when I was starting to struggle. And I was having symptoms for at least 2 to 3 years before I even recognized it myself. And I work in the business, so can imagine like the average lay woman trying to go through this and trying to navigate things and trying to figure out how to get help. It's hard. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on, especially perimenopause. But anyway, around that time that I was doing this deep dive and really trying to learn as much as I can and trying to go to doctors and get advocacy for myself and getting help, I was approached by our chief medical officer, Winona, who we worked for the same national company of OB physicians that are brought into hospitals to help provide 24/7 coverage for deliveries and things like that. And he said, hey, I'm in this medical startup and we're helping women in midlife and we're doing menopause care and we're expanding to Pennsylvania. And I need someone who's a great doctor in Pennsylvania to start taking care of patients for us. And I was like, who is this guy? And where is he coming from? This was back in December of 2021, right after the pandemic. And what we learned in the medical community from the pandemic was that access to care was a real problem. And we learned that telemedicine was a real viable way to bring care to patients in their homes, especially when people are afraid to go to the doctor, everyone's afraid of getting infected, all kinds of things. So Winona was born around that time, and I was kind of brought in, about 9 months into them starting. And then, as I was taking care of patients and also getting care of myself, and I became a Winona patient, basically it was just this whole new world that opened. And now it's become, my pet project and my labor of love, in helping patients like me. Because I feel like, the hair club for men, it's like, I'm not only a doctor, I'm a
I'm
patient
also
too.
a client.
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
We're all Gen X, we know.
Yes, yes. But yeah, it's really crazy how much I was dealing with personally, that I was just chalking up to being tired and being overworked or stressed or, whatever.
Yeah.
And so many of those symptoms were perimenopause. So basically I started seeing patients for Winona in the state of Pennsylvania. And then I had some other old medical licenses from the past, because in the Army, I had to move around a lot. So I was in Hawaii at one point for my residency.
Well, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, for me, it was a means to an end, because I came from a family where no one had gone to college before me, just junior colleges and stuff. And so there was no college fund. And so the Army is how I got through college and med school.
Well, Dr. Kat, it all counts. So thank you for your service, even for that.
But anyway, so then I started expanding to a couple other states. And then basically, as we kept growing and adding more states to our repertoire of patients, to take care of patients in, they basically asked me, would you be willing to become our medical director? We really need, a face for the company. And, Dr. Green, who's our chief medical officer, and I really believe really strongly in patient education. So we do like webinars, twice a month for patients, doing podcasts like this and just getting outreach and getting the word out, and, helping women find the information that they need has really become, one of my main missions in life.
Yeah, I love it.
It's part of this role. Yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead, Kat.
Take part of the mission. So, all right. So I'm going to kick off a question here. So since we last spoke, there's been a lot of more, I say, mainstream attention, including warning label change, and even Oprah dedicating an episode to menopause, right? So why does this moment feel different? And why is this now the correct time, the right time for a deeper conversation?
I think, it's been a long time coming. So many women have been suffering for so long in silence and not getting the help that they needed. And I think that really the first real part that kind of broke into mainstream was during the Super Bowl a few years ago. There was a commercial about VMS, vasomotor symptoms. And I was sitting there watching with my kids, and I thought, holy shit, there's a commercial about menopause during the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh.
It's mostly men watching. A lot of the women are busy making the Super Bowl halftime food and whatever. But anyway, that was probably the first time I'd ever seen anything in mainstream about this, and started having the conversation with colleagues. I'm like, wow, this is like opening the doors. And then when the FDA had their panel last summer talking about, having that expert panel to talk about HRT and really the benefits of estrogen and how we have done a disservice to women for so long. It just is really like fear mongering, and so much that came out of it. It was a very good study that was done, and we've learned a lot of good things from the Women's Health Initiative study, which was done, and information was released in the early 2000s. But the problem was the main investigator kind of released the information to the media before it was really even vetted, and before they decided how to release things. And, if you watch the news, it's like one day they'll tell you green beans are good for your health. The next day they'll tell you it'll kill you if you eat too many.
Yeah.
And so basically they took these headlines and snippets of results from this study and put it out to the general public, and caused this widespread panic about HRT being dangerous.
Yeah.
And what we really learned from that study was that there's a magic window of time when it's the best to start HRT. Like if a woman goes through menopause and goes too long from the time her body actually goes through this transition, starting hormones much, much later, like greater than 10 years after she's gone through the transition, can increase her risk and can be more harmful than good. And so when they did that study, a lot of women that were receiving hormones were over 60, starting de novo on hormones. And by then it's kind of like too little too late, right?
Is it?
Well, it can be if you're starting, like if you go through menopause at 55,
yeah,
you're a late bloomer when you go through menopause, 60 may be okay. But
Yeah.
for most women, the average age is like 51, 52 to go through menopause. And so if you wait until 62, 63 to start hormones,
Yeah.
you've missed out on an entire decade where you could have been getting the health benefits of this treatment.
So that could be like the earlier the better, and how
Yeah.
early possible. Like I started at, I think 47, 40. How this does definitely happen with age. I forget what my age is at.
Been a
But
year.
Oh,
but would it,
And you just
I mean,
turned 49.
statistically, does it do better, even like say if you, so there's some women, they start showing perimenopause symptoms at 35. So basically, how early and how much
Well,
earlier?
so really, as soon as symptoms are becoming bothersome to your day-to-day life, that's the perfect time for you to
Yeah.
consider
Okay.
treatment. There's not like a magic age, a magic window, but a lot of women, don't recognize the symptoms early because every one of us is going to go through this, but every single one of our experiences is going to be unique. And that's what makes it so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
When you look at a comprehensive list of symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, there's so many different things, and not every woman experiences every one of them. We have
Mhm.
patterns. In general, most women who still have a uterus start to recognize menstrual changes as one of the earliest signs.
Yeah.
Insomnia also creeps in. The hot flashes and night sweats tend to come a little later than like the brain fog and insomnia. That usually
Yeah, I just started those, but I think I had all the others for a long time, for years,
Yeah.
honestly. But I also think I contributed it to my obesity, which it likely also obviously played a role because we know what all does. But I just thought, and I remember the doctors kind of blowing it off and being like, you need to lose weight. You got too much estrogen. You hold estrogen in your fat cells. That's your problem. Lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. Right. Well, that only works for certain things. Like it's not, a cure, and I think that's something I experienced for sure too. And that the sleeping thing, God, that is awful. And then it just makes you such a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I have another question to build on that as well. I don't know why it made me think of, when you said bitch. But what about like women in the audience who have really, really extremely irregular, crazy, wonky periods like me? I don't think I really could. I probably was going through it, but until I got 2 periods in 1 month, and I was like, "This something's up." But mine were just all over the place. How can they tell earlier on if it's not just the cycles?
Yeah, really, if you have periods that are irregular anyway, and that's your normal,
Yeah.
and then it may be hard to notice if there's subtle changes.
Mhm.
But for someone who's like very regular and has a pattern to their menstrual cycles to all of a sudden start noticing like they're skipping a month or having 2 in a month or they're coming later, the bleeding caliber's changing, then they can notice. But if it's hard to notice with your cycle, then the other things are, the brain fog, the insomnia, memory changes, like I used to make fun of my mother so much about like calling people by the wrong name, especially at family gatherings. And I found myself doing it. Like I'd run through all the pets' names and the 3 kids' names before I'd get
Agreed.
things like that, like short-term recall, like, going into another room to do something, getting to that other room and forgetting what you went in there for.
Why am
Like
I
just
here?
the 5 seconds it takes to walk from one room to the next in my home. You'd get in the next room and be like, well, what did I do? And then you find something else like, oh, I need to do this. But then you just keep getting distracted. Like, so some of us, used to being very high functioning, or we're used to being very proud of being multitaskers. Suddenly we can't stay focused. And a lot of women, start noticing that as a symptoms. And maybe they never struggled with that before. And all of a sudden they're thinking like, oh, do I have ADHD now?
Yeah.
Because the brain fog that comes with perimenopause and menopause can kind of, copy that. Yes, you can have ADHD too, but the brain fog with the hormone changes can also be a big part of that too.
Yeah.
The other big thing that I think that a lot of women start to experience, which is so, so common, is a change in our sex life.
Oh,
Like
God.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things that I noticed, which, as a gynecologist, I was like, okay, something's not quite right. I don't have the lubrication. Like my brain is ready. My heart is ready. Like I'm physically ready in my mind, but like the vagina is not responding like it used to. And that's a sign of estrogen declining. And so the other part of that too is libido, like our desire for sex and just our own self-esteem and, self-worth and, feeling sexy or even being comfortable in our own skin. Like
Mhm.
so much of that is all up in the air in perimenopause. There's so many changes related to the hormone fluctuation. So
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think to Kelly's point, like when she was talking about, I was so exhausted one time I had to pull over and take a nap. Like that would be sort of an example of it is now like impeding your life, right? Like it is
yes.
centered in a way that it's like the symptom is so much, it's changing like how you can, live it, right?
Yeah. And I wanted to piggyback on Kat Carter's question because for me, if your cycle isn't regular, I had these really weird symptoms that I didn't know were symptoms, like
Mhm.
allergies. I had it like a whole summer where I was like constantly, I've never had allergies. Allergies was not a problem in my life. And I had this insane amount of allergies for like a good 6 months. Apparently that's a perimenopause can be
I
a
did not know.
symptom. Itchy ears, my ears and my hands were just like, I mean, so itchy. And all these little, so it was like all these little things that as I started to learn about it, it was like, oh, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is part of the problem. So I think there's just so many symptoms that if you find something that's just kind of really off, that isn't your normal, I think that can be like a major like flag,
Yeah.
and even the 2 o'clock in the morning wake ups. I think a lot of people are like, oh, we all wake up at 2 a.m., but you can't go to sleep for an hour and a half.
I
That's
get
not
back to sleep.
normal.
Yeah.
That's the one. When you can go back to sleep. Hey, mine's
And
3
magnesium is your friend to go back to
Yeah,
sleep.
right. I love it.
That's indeed.
Go ahead, Kat.
Okay, so women were largely excluded from medical research for a long time. How did that lack of data, however you
Data.
want,
Midwest data.
data, shape menopause care, hormone guidance, and the stigma that women still carry with menopause?
And it's crazy when you think about it, but for years and years, women were not included in medical research. And would you believe that birth control pills weren't even tested on women before they were released?
What were
Yeah.
they tested on? Well, they can't be
Yes.
on men.
Men.
I thought maybe
And
animals.
here's the thing, like, so most medical researchers, so our bodies are so amazing and complex as women. I mean, think about it. We grow life inside of us. There's so many changes. Like women can tolerate and deal with so many things that men would not be capable of.
Yeah.
But because so much of our ups and downs of hormones, it introduced too many variables into their scientific calculations and looking at the data. So they didn't want to deal with accommodating for changes in hormone levels at different times of the month and all this kind of stuff to see how women would respond to medication. So for a long
You're such a
time,
hassle, ladies. You're such a hassle, right?
I know, isn't that insane though? But like medication that is specifically made for women wasn't even tested on women until recently.
Quick pause here. I've had moments on my GLP-1 journey where insurance changes or rising costs forced me to look for a new provider. And honestly, that process can feel very overwhelming. But that's why the Plus Sides podcast is partnered with GLP Winner to give our subscribers a resource to help them make that decision easier. GLP Winner is a comparison platform that lets you explore telehealth providers in all 50 states, whether you're looking for brand name medications or compounded options. You can see pricing up front, read reviews, and get a clear picture of which provider might align best with your needs. Check it out today at glpwinner.com/plus sides. That's glpwinner.com/plus sides. Don't forget the Z. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m., and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again, and the hot flashes are gone, which is, geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Roe now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Which is insane to me. But I mean, fundamentally, I think it's kind of a reflection of women's roles and worth in society as a whole.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even until recently, like I don't remember as a kid ever seeing MaxiPad commercials on TV or tampon commercials.
Mhm.
Like everything that ever happened to our bodies was like so secretive and hush hush,
It
right?
was so subtle. If
it's
the
private.
ads were on
America
TV, they
specifically,
were
like,
so
private.
subtle.
Yes. And now I hear about
They-
parents having like period parties for their girls that are getting, you know, their first period. And
Oh my
I
God.
I heard about a dad who went out and got like a red velvet cake and invited everyone over to the house, and like everyone had period
Oh, I did hear about that recently.
pads
Actually.
and stuff like that.
That's a good idea, though. A red.
It's
oh my God.
wonderful. I
It's
mean,
like
like
owning it, you know?
the thing is like our bodies should not be shameful. It really is comes back to like purity culture and the religious undertones and like all that kind of stuff. But we don't value like women and older women, especially in our society, as much as some other cultures, right? So
Yes.
Native Americans, for instance, who were the most valuable people on a tribe?
The elders.
Older women, the elders, right? It was the oldest woman in your tribe who delivered all the babies, who did the medical care, or like she was a medicine woman, right? So we valued that knowledge, but like in our mainstream, like modern society, you know, when women kind of hit their prime, especially even in Hollywood, it's like you don't see them in movies as much. They're always like gravitating toward younger. But it's the same thing with healthcare too. It's like women wasn't the focus. I mean, how many different erectile dysfunction drugs do we have? And how many meds do we have for women's libido? It's just, and now the time is coming. And I like that mainstream media it's starting to talk about this with more visibility, because the conversation's happening and it's out there. And like our daughters are going to benefit so much more from us having this dialogue and getting this education out there and making treatments more available than we ever had to. They're not going to have to suffer like we did to try to get the help that we need.
You know, it makes me think of it's hilarious. We use this joke all the time at home with my husband and I, but it's true. Remember Talladega Nights, Will Ferrell, and he was Ricky Bobby. And you remember in the beginning, he's like, "Are you having issues with your mysterious lady parts?" But it's so true. Like,
they are mysterious.
mysterious parts. They're mysterious because society, like, we made it as such, you know, like, yeah. But anyway,
but we don't have to be. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on it. We were talking about sleep earlier. I saw on a podcast that TMJ, it could also be a symptom of menopause.
Yes.
Menopause.
Well, and that goes along with joint discomforts and dysfunctions all around the body. So, you know, TMJ, you know, it's temporomandibular joint syndrome, basically where you get like stiffness in the jaw joint, where you get like clicking, cracking, pain. Sometimes it's hard if, you know, like people have a lot of discomfort chewing. Sometimes your bite, like when you open your mouth, it may be even crooked because the joint gets so stiff, and the ligaments and tendons that are in this joint that joins our mandible to our skull get affected by TMJ. But arthritis gets so worse. Women can suffer from frozen shoulder out of the blue, all of a sudden get a stiff shoulder, wake up with it, perimenopause related. The thing is that estrogen is such a fundamental part of the optimal function of every tissue in our body that's why, like the itchy ears you mentioned early, Kelly, like it's the skin and it's the little tiny bones that help us to conduct the sound in our ear, and our inner ear are affected by the loss of estrogen. Like tissues are more supple. This joint spaces like the synovial fluid in our joints is more abundant and more, you know, it functions better when there's estrogen flowing through our system. Our skin gets drier, but also our muscles respond negatively with loss of estrogen. It seems like everything. And for me, like, I'll just tell you a personal story. In the Army, I had a bad injury. I ended up, you know, herniated several discs in my neck, getting ready for a deployment to go to Afghanistan. So I have horrible arthritis in my neck, really stiff neck. You know, they wanted to do all kinds of reconstructive surgery on my back and all kinds of stuff. Well, when I was struggling with symptoms of the brain fog and the insomnia and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden I kept having these flares of those areas that had previously injured, right? So like if you're an athlete and say you've had an ACL repair or you've had a low back issue or an injury, those same joints are going to be the same ones that flare in perimenopause when you start losing the estrogen from those joint spaces. So like all the joints in our body can respond negatively. And I literally thought like, God, I'm aging like on fast forward. Like everything was achy and creaky. And then when I got on estrogen, suddenly I'm like, oh, like I can move. My joints are moving smoother again. Like I'm not cracking and popping like, you know, like Rice Krispies in the morning when I get up.
Yeah.
It's insane. But the TMJ is part of that too.
I have noticed that. But you know, my ankles always popped. Like when I was a youngster, everything popped. But yeah, it's not as I'm not as pop locking and dropping it. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
What about like clenching, like in your sleep? Like, is
And then
that?
grinding your teeth in your sleep.
Yeah. I mean, that can be related to TMJ.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that that can be a very common issue too. Like as an adult, I ended up having to get Invisalign because of like the clenching, and I was grinding my teeth when I was sleeping and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And it was affecting, you know, the alignment of my teeth. And also the TMJ and the clenching and grinding at night can then lead to headaches the following morning. Because what happens is our jaw is held on with all these muscles. And if we're clenching and we're tight, those muscles get tight and it transmits to like headache the next morning because you get all this muscle tension in your head as well. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Everything is so interrelated in our body. You know, it's things don't happen independently. And so, you know, what the best thing to do, like if you're a woman going through all these things, like is to start logging your symptoms, start to keep track, like keep a symptom diary. It is so helpful. But we really have to be observers of our own health and our own body.
Yeah.
Because
and our own advocates for what we need.
yes,
Yeah.
because that's how you know when things are changing and something's happening.
Yeah. I'm wondering too, like, I had seen a video that popped on my feed one day where they were saying that that kind of based on the hormonal shift that something can happen where you can get, I think it was obstructive sleep apnea. Is that true?
It can be true. Yeah. I mean, we always kind of traditionally thought about obstructive sleep apnea as being weight related, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, is a good topic for you on your show too, because it's something, we would talk about. But it actually also can be the tone of the muscles in the back of the throat too. So like we lose our muscle and the muscle maintenance is affected when we lose estrogen. And so if the muscles in the back of like our neck are more relaxed and more flaccid, then we have more of a risk of that airway getting obstructed when we sleep and we're completely relaxed.
Are there exercises that we can do to strengthen this muscle?
I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do. It's funny. I saw something, it's probably wildly inappropriate, but I think you like juicy stuff. But there was some woman that just posted, and one of my doctor groups on Facebook, someone reposted it. And I thought it was hilarious because somebody was asking this woman how she does not have jowls and how her neck is so toned. And she said, blowjobs. If you
I mean,
it's an exercise.
It's a neck exercise. And
my husband edits this podcast. He's going to be like, oh my God.
He's going to be laughing out loud, right?
Laugh.
There's all kinds of things you could do. I mean, I've seen a lot of people with those like stones and they're like massaging their face. And there's so many gimmicks out there. I think that some of it's genetics and some of it, you know, we can try to do different things to modify. But I thought that was hilarious when I saw that.
Yeah, it is so funny.
That is hilarious. Laugh at that, John. Have it all the laugh.
That's my husband. We talked about like, because we talk about on the show, right, a lot with the weight gain, right? And whether someone's, you know, on a GLP-1 wants to be, some people just binge this show because, you know, or even find us from this, you know, from these kinds of topics. But in terms of like the weight gain, like what is going on there that's causing that? And why does it seem to be right in the middle?
Yes. It's right in the middle because it's all related to our stress hormone, basically. So when all of these changes are starting to happen and you're not sleeping and your brain fog is affecting like your relationships with people, your work, and you're not functioning your best, your body's kind of literally in a fight or flight mode. Which increases your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. And when our stress hormone is high, our body's in this fight or flight mode, which means no matter how little calories you're eating, your body's going to hold on to everything. And it's like going back to caveman stages. It's like, you want to hold on to weight and hold on to calories and fuel, because you never know when you're going to need them in that high stress state. So that's why we tend to get the meno belly, and like our core, like our torso tends to hold on to more weight, just because of that stress hormone being elevated. So what happens is when we start taking hormone therapy and you start sleeping better and you start getting normal daily patterns and you're starting to feel better, the stress hormone, the cortisol levels go down. And then your metabolism can go back to what it was doing normally when it wasn't interfered by that fight or flight mode. And so that's really, like, on a very basic level, kind of how things are responding.
Interesting. Yeah, because I would think that, like, a lot of people that listen to our show struggle with metabolic disease, usually obesity, and a lot of our doctors have talked about that, right? Like, about how we kind of are always in that state, right? And then how GLP-1s can help us get out of that state. But I can speak personally that, and Kat too, even with us sort of addressing obesity and addressing that, like, dysfunction that we have, perimenopause still came for us, like it's still
inevitable.
no, I mean, like, you can't outrun it, guys. Yeah. What might also be interesting too to understand is, like, I didn't think to ask you this until just now, but I've had people on the show that are like, either I've already gone through menopause, so like maybe they're just gone through, or maybe they're in their 60s. Is HRT something that might be an option for me, and how could it possibly help? And I've also had people say, no, like, I had a hysterectomy, so I'm not going to go through menopause. Or is that all? Like, I don't even know if that's true. Do you? I mean, I'm sure you do.
Well, yeah. So having a hysterectomy, a lot of things, one of the main things I want to talk about first is a lot of women say hysterectomy thinking that every one of their female organs is removed. But really, hysterectomy is just removal of the uterus. The uterus is just a vessel. It is non-hormonal, doesn't produce any hormones, doesn't create any hormones, and it doesn't respond. So basically, all of our hormones are made in our ovaries. But if you have your ovaries removed, it's called an oophorectomy. But a lot of people say, like, partial hysterectomy, meaning that they just had their uterus removed, but really hysterectomy just means uterus removed. But if you go through a hysterectomy and you have your uterus removed, but you still have your ovaries, you're still going to get that hormone created normally. Your body is still pre-programmed to try to get that uterus ready for pregnancy. And then when you don't get pregnant, more hormone signals tell it to shed and have a period. Your ovaries are still going through that pattern, even though there's no uterus to receive the signal. Wow. So it's harder though, because without a cycle, you don't really know, like, when is your period getting wonky? Like, when is it changing? Because you don't have the period to look at. But often you can still have the other symptoms. Like, some of us will get symptoms before their period of, like, the premenstrual symptoms and mood swings, things like that. You'll still have that. But because of that, you're still going to go through menopause when your ovaries would naturally age on their own. Okay. And then there's that subset of women who maybe for one reason or another, they needed everything removed. So they had their uterus, their fallopian tubes, and their ovaries removed. And when it happens so suddenly like that, it's actually even more dangerous to them than going through natural menopause, because it's a sudden castration and removal of the source of all their estrogen that's being produced in the ovaries. And so as gynecologists, like, if I were to do a hysterectomy, like, the reason that women do that and they have their ovaries from everything removed is, like, really bad endometriosis, cancers, things like that. And what we know is that in women, when we do that before their natural age of menopause, we're actually ending their lifespan by taking those things out early if we don't give them hormone replacement therapy, at least until their ovaries would have gone through normal menopause on its own. So, I mean, at a minimum, a woman who maybe had a hysterectomy and had her ovaries out in her 30s should have replacement estrogen until she's 51, 52 at a minimum, just to help protect her bones and to protect her heart. Because if you have that estrogen, like, stolen from your body prematurely, it has so many negative effects throughout your body. Is that, like, standard practice now, or when was it? Because I feel like there seem to be a lot of people that and maybe again, because I'm on the internet, like, I hear it a lot more, but there seem to be a lot of people that think they got that. Like, when did that start? And I think that's because after that WHI study in the early 2000s, a lot of doctors did not get the education that they needed to understand, like, the importance of giving women HRT after having their ovaries removed, but also just not having the experience level and not feeling comfortable prescribing. It's like
Yeah.
if somebody came to me and asked me for some specialty eye medication. As a gynecologist, I don't know how to help them because I haven't
Yeah.
studied that particular type of medicine. Well, like family doctors, generalists, even OBGYNs, if they don't have the experience in learning perimenopause and menopause
Yeah.
care, then when patients come to them asking for help, what are they going to give them? Exactly what Kelly talked about. They get them birth control pills because what have they been prescribing for the bulk of their career? Is birth control pills.
And they weren't even tested on us. It's
No.
crazy.
No.
So, but
Thank
that's
you.
what
Yeah.
doctors feel most comfortable with because
Yeah.
they have years and years of experience, like, prescribing those and tweaking those, and it's what they know. Is it the best treatment for perimenopause? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But it's what they know and it's what they feel comfortable with, and so they offer that to their patients.
Wow.
But I think that, going back to our conversation about this being more in the mainstream,
Yeah.
because more women are getting educated and this is more in the mainstream and Oprah's on board and there's a docu-series out now called Balance, talking about perimenopause.
Ooh.
Because that's out there and more women are learning, we're forcing the medical community to up the ante and to improve what they're offering, really. Because if you go to your doctor and you talk about this and they're not willing to talk about it or hear about it, guess
Yeah.
what? They're going to lose your business and you're going to go
Right.
find somebody else.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's why Winona exists, because we
Yeah.
exist because, some patients don't have access to a doctor in person that they could see to get this kind of help.
Sure.
And that's where we kind of bridge the gap. But we have patients come back to us all the time that say, I've been on your medication for 2 years. I felt great. My doctor saw how good I was doing. And now he's willing to start taking over the
Oh,
prescription
that-
so I can use my prescription coverage. And I'm like, that's wonderful. Like, I'm sorry we're losing you as a patient, but I'm so happy your doctor's gotten on board. Like,
Yeah.
that's a win for me. Like, I
Yeah.
love to hear
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great. Yeah. I mean, like even if it's just to get you started for a year or whatever it is,
Yeah.
then if you, as you get your, things get more complicated or like, I think that's great. I think that the one issue to consider is that when it comes to like just the healthcare system in general, it's very difficult, one, to find people that are specialists in this area. I think it's harder to find to get on the books. And three, I think like insurance is a continuous hurdle, like to have like,
Right.
your fee and stuff. So it's like, how affordable is it and things like that. I was actually really encouraged by how affordable it is to be able to do without using insurance too. So I
And you
think
can use your HSA and FSA card if you have one too.
that's right. So
Yeah.
true.
I love that. I wanted to ask you too about something I got going on, which is emptying my bladder.
Mm.
And I'm just going to talk about it. I feel like I can't imagine people don't feel this, but it's been since this all got started. And I do think it's been better since I've been on HRT, but it's still there and I don't really know what to do. And I feel like there's got to be women, but it's more like I have to at certain times during my cycle, I have to like shift my body to completely empty my bladder. And I saw a TikTok come across my feed once that said something about how you have to be careful because you can get like urinary tract infections.
Right. If you're not emptying.
And it has something to do with like the floor muscles or something.
It can be. Yeah. It can
Yeah.
be related to a lot of things. I mean,
Absolutely.
childbirth is number one.
That's what I'm thinking.
So like pregnancy and postpartum and childbirth, delivering, whether you have a vaginal delivery or a C-section,
Yeah.
changes that internal architecture of all those pelvic supports that hold our bladder. And
Mhm.
so what we can get is like weakness in the vaginal wall after having vaginal deliveries, where like the bladder might bulge into the vagina, what we call cystocele. And so in that case, like the bladder, even though like it inflates with urine, you go to empty, but then there's this little pouch kind of hanging down that's not completely emptied until you kind of bend over and kind of get
Yeah.
the liquid to go over.
Yes.
You have to kind of,
But also,
see, you're
like,
all laughing because you've been there. Like you go
Because
like,
we've been there, really doing the dance. Yeah.
yes. And then the other thing too is that when we lose estrogen from the vaginal tissues, where does our urine come out of our body? Right anterior to the vagina, right below the clitoris, there's your urethra, and then the vagina is below.
Yeah.
If all those tissues get denuded of estrogen, they get thinner, and our sphincter, which is that little muscle ring that helps hold our urine in, gets
Yeah.
weak. And so then we're more prone to incontinence.
Yeah.
The inevitable,
like both going on. Sometimes I gotta
in
like
the
get
door
out,
and
and
you
other
can't get
times I gotta run.
I think that estrogen has really helped me on that. I got to say
Yeah.
that really.
I think that's where we talk about where she was saying that like everybody's is kind of unique because I have to be really careful not to do too much estrogen because I have like an over emotional, like the same thing was with birth control pills when I was like a teenager and even in my 20s. It took forever to find one that was low enough estrogen that I could like tolerate. right? And we just kept trying, kept trying, and kept trying. And because I would be just like batshit crazy, you know? So it's been like trying to find the right, which is what's cool about Winona, right? Is that you can be like, hey, can we test? He'll be like, yeah, well, like you talk with your doctor, right? They're like, let's test, let's do a little bit more of this, a little bit of that. Let's do 1 pump, let's do 2 pumps, let's do it, you know? And I think that's what's important for people to understand. It's just like you said, like everybody's is going to be like a different experience, but these are still very common things that we all sort of go through, and we need to be able to talk about it more. You know, I need to be able to say on my podcast, it's about health. Like I can't piss sometimes, you know, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, is there anything we can do about that? Like, cause I remember one time, it was years ago, and I was at a gynecologist who I fired bad, real bad. He told me I should weigh closer to what his wife weighs, 135 pounds after being on Mounjaro. And that it was because I was a woman and my frame was smaller, and that was what I should be. And that is what I should focus on getting to. Not kidding. That happened. But while I was on the table,
A gynecologist did this?
yes,
Oh, because he's an expert in weight management.
clearly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just like, and I had lost 100 pounds, and I was like, why? This is a weird conversation. Like, why aren't we talking about how great that is? Like, you know. But then I was telling him about, you know, like this pee thing, and like we did an ultrasound. He just said to make sure everything was all right, and checked it out. And he was like, it looks like normal. But he gave me a card to go see somebody to like learn how to do exercises to help this.
Pelvic floor physical therapy.
What?
Yes. And that's a good topic to talk about too.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, this is something that is so underutilized in this country, but should be a absolutely integral part of all your women's healthcare.
Really?
It should be
I didn't trust him, so now we're talking.
I mean, after pregnancy and all the rearranging and restructuring that happens to our pelvic floor and our hips and everything after like expanding for a baby and then going back down to normal size, those pelvic floor muscles get affected. And also, you know, it can really improve our sexual function and our sex life too, but also your bladder control, the, you know, internal architecture. Pelvic floor physical therapists are the experts on helping to keep that part of your body and your musculoskeletal system in that part of your body the healthiest it can be, helping those Kegel muscles, you know, to function their best. With ladies listening, if your Kegel muscles are stronger, your orgasms will be better.
Ooh.
Yes. So, yes.
Okay. I have a question, and I'm going to get super personal. Warning. And if you're listening, guys, it's going to be lady parts.
Lady parts, I'm serious.
All right. I have never had children, wasn't able to conceive. So, and I don't know if this could be the reason why, but since hitting perimenopause, what am I going to say? I got to say it's really nicely and delicately. I don't relax as well. The everything, it feels like it's too tight. It feels like it never loosens. I don't know if that's because I haven't had children, but that has, I'm like, yeah. Do
So
I need to put I can't, anyway. Nothing stretches it out anymore. Okay, that's it.
So we lose elasticity in our vagina in perimenopause and menopause too, but like pelvic floor physical therapy could help that too.
Really?
Let's get together, Kat. It could be a whole thing.
Yeah. You could do a whole thing and then, you know.
I didn't think I had to do it because I was like, good. I'm sorry, everybody. I felt like I was virginal.
Don't feel sorry. They're all going through it too.
It hurt like a mofo. And so now I'm just like, I mean, yeah. I don't need to do a Kegel because it's too dang tight.
But no, you need to strengthen the muscles and strengthen the Kegel muscles so that they're able to relax. So like if the tissues aren't healthy and if they're kind of hypertonic and too tight, you need to work those muscles so that they're able to relax and elongate. So, but it's true. Like I've had patients over the years that, you know, for whatever reason, maybe their partner died or whatever, and they hadn't had sex in 10 years. And all of a sudden they meet somebody, the vagina literally gets more narrow and shorter if you don't use it. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Are you?
Oh, no.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're right. I'm not using it as much because
I'm not either. We got to get back on this.
Everybody, don't listen. Don't tell your husbands about this show right now.
Or maybe do. Maybe do.
Like, you don't have a partner in your life, no matter what gender they are. Like there are lots of things available. There's a lot,
and I think it's important to consider. And I'm just going for it. sometimes you might not want to have sex with a partner, but with yourself. And this is why
Yes.
also good orgasms are important. So this is all healthy. Like this is good stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I think
I
that's really interesting. We should find one, Kat, and see if we
I
can.
think we should. I always thought I
really
didn't need it
solve
because it was just,
Yeah.
my
Oh,
God.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, it can
And the
help.
other thing along those lines too, if everything feels tight or sex is uncomfortable,
Mhm.
the other part of hormone therapy that we haven't talked about yet is vaginal estrogen, right?
Let's
So
talk about that. Please
yeah,
tell us all the things.
yeah. So when we're talking about using like body creams, patches, pills, those are the systemic hormones that we give you to help with like the hot flashes, the brain fog, everything. But those vaginal symptoms have their own name into itself. It's called genitourinary syndrome of menopause. That's when the vagina loses its folds or its rugations, it loses its elasticity. The vaginal skin itself, the mucosa gets thinner. So to the point where when you go to have sex, sometimes you can get little micro tears from the skin not being able to accommodate any kind of penetrative object, whether it be fingers, penis, toy, whatever.
Right.
So vaginal estrogen can be given in the form of a cream that kind of comes with like an applicator that looks like a tampon. You can have an insert or like a ovule. There's also intravaginal DHEA, which can also help as well. But giving your body back estrogen to the vaginal tissues helps to improve the elasticity, the suppleness, makes lubrication better, but makes the discomfort during sex much better, you know, if it's an issue of dryness and loss of elasticity.
Interesting. I also found some creams on the HSA website. I used two. It's a big joke. I'm like, my husband be like, "Did you bring your special moisturizer?" Because you got
Whatever.
to do it morning and night. You got to make sure. But yeah, so I do use that.
Is
in
that
addition to the
different?
cream.
Is what's Kat talking about different than what you're talking about?
Yeah, there
It's
are
different.
vaginal moisturizers,
I use
and then there's vaginal hormones, right? So there's
both.
different things like intimate moisturizers, which you know some of them have like hyaluronic acid and other just you know lubrication items, but there's no like hormone in it. But if you've lost estrogen from those tissues, and that's something like vaginal estrogen should be so ubiquitous, it is safe for every woman, even if you've had breast cancer and you're worried about using hormones, you can use
Yeah.
vaginal estrogen
That's
because
amazing.
it's only locally absorbed into the vaginal tissue, so it's safe to use. Even for women that maybe aren't good candidates to take systemic HRT, they could still use vaginal estrogen. It can be really helpful.
So good to know.
Yeah.
Or maybe our
Dr.
friends.
Kat,
Go ahead.
so sorry. I also heard that that same cream works for minimizing UTIs. Like I kind of am a chronic UTI
really?
person, so I
Okay.
Yeah,
should
because when
look
you
into
think about
that.
the vaginal tissue getting thinner and more fragile, that goes along with that same tissue around the urethra, right? So if you use vaginal estrogen, it helps to bulk up the tissue around the urethral opening, which prevents, you know, and provides more of a barrier for the bacteria to get in. So
Is great.
yeah.
I love that. Like, this is such good information. I feel like last time because Kat and I were just still learning, like kind of scratching the surface. This is
Yeah.
such good stuff. I think one question I just want to circle back to, and then we can probably wrap up in case, unless Kelly has any questions too, is like our friends that have lost their ovaries and have lost their uterus, like have done full hysterectomy and haven't been given any medicine. Can that help them now, whether it's vaginal or systemic? Did I say it right?
Yes, it can.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Okay.
if they're having issues and if they're suffering from symptoms, they should definitely, you know, talk to their doctor about it. And if they don't have a doctor who's willing to listen, they can come to a platform like ours, like Winona.
Yes.
There's lots of other ones out there too.
Bio. Link in bio.
Yeah. If your insurance doesn't cover it, because sometimes insurance won't cover HRT or whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times I think they don't. Like, I think
It's so sexist, right? Because guess what? Insurance covers erectile dysfunction meds for a lot of men.
you do.
So there again, back to like that disparity between men and women and our value in society. Like we've done better.
Yeah, I do. I think it's interesting. Like I did hear somebody say once that sort of the idea that we haven't been testing women forever, right? Like for these studies, a perfect example is the birth control, right? It does almost seem like, or we're saying that once we can't reproduce, we are not of value. Like that is what science is showing, right? That's the science. And that's not true. I don't think anybody actually thinks that, but I think that because of the decisions that are made, that's what's kind of happening, you know?
Yeah.
And that's crazy because we kick all the ass in the land. Like we can do all the things now. You know, we work and we create life. And sometimes we have friends like Kelly that create life for us, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Telling you. It's
I'm
awesome.
telling you, our generation and after, like we are not going gently into old age. Like we're going to
I like that. Yeah, don't go gently.
And this is part of that too, is, advocating for yourself, getting the treatment you need so that you can make that second half of your life better than the first.
Yeah. When you were talking about adding in vaginal estrogen, I'd also heard some people say adding in vaginal testosterone could be helpful for like libido and stuff. Is that something? And then Kelly mentioned having cream that had DHEA and not testosterone. How are those two things different?
Yeah, I wanna
And
go
how
back
can
there.
they help?
Yeah, so DHEA is basically a substance that is made by our adrenal glands. It's a
Mhm.
precursor hormone. And when that gets broken down into the body, it breaks down into a little bit of estrogen and testosterone. So it's kind of a naturler way to kind of gently boost your testosterone levels.
Okay.
Here's the thing is that testosterone is considered a controlled substance in America
Oh,
because
really?
it's widely abused, because
Steroid.
Oh,
bodybuilders use it, athletes were using it to be able to like run
mm,
faster, lift more, go harder, that kind of thing.
Yep.
yeah.
And we, for years, we've known that women have testosterone. It's circulating in our bodies. It's created by
Mm,
our ovaries too, just as much as estrogen. But because we think about testosterone being a male hormone, the FDA has only ever approved testosterone for men. So if we ever want to treat women with testosterone, we're using it off label. We're using a male product and trying to tailor it to a woman's needs. But
mm,
what we've been pushing for and what's come out even more recently in the FDA is that we're pushing for them to come out with some guidelines for women, for women's bodies, so that more providers feel comfortable treating with testosterone and being able to
mm,
have guidelines and a product that's specifically made for women so that we don't have to do the guesswork and be trying to tailor a male product to women, because it's a different dose. Like women need about 1/10 of the dose that a man
right.
needs.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So,
makes sense.
and that's one of the biggest issues. And every state, and the other thing too, is that depending on where you live in the country, medications are regulated differently in your state. So every state has their own laws as to like who can prescribe controlled substances. Can you get it from a telemedicine provider like us, or do you have to be seen in person? So some controlled substances you have to have like a contract with your provider, like almost like it's a narcotic, right? That you're saying like you're only going to get the medication from them. They're only going to prescribe X number amount. They're going to test you periodically, that kind of thing. Like testosterone's regulated like OxyContin. It's insane.
Wow. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, "Listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was because I'm 46." And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again, and the hot flashes are gone, which is geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
Food has definitely been a very dominant voice in my head. That's not the main focus anymore. Dieting, exercising, and adding GLP-1s through Row is a game changer. I have such a sense of mental freedom since I started with Row. Food no longer controls my thoughts. Family time used to revolve around food, and now it revolves around what we're gonna go do together.
And it's an integral
And
hormone in our
it's
body.
because it's abused. That's why they're regulating, right?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, anything can be abused. I mean,
Well, sure.
anything can be dangerous.
True.
Absolutely. People
If
abuse
you take too much
GLP-1.
Tylenol, it can hurt you, right? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
So if you need to go that route, or if you're at that level, because I know that's maybe Winona can't do that because of for all those reasons that you just mentioned, what
telemedicine.
kind of doctor do you want to look for? Right? Like for that would be open to that. Understand? Like what are how
Well,
do you
really,
know?
menopause specialists that are
Yeah.
certified by the Menopause Society, like, would be well versed in talking about testosterone and feel comfortable prescribing it.
Is there like a site for the Menopause Society
Yeah.
where you can find
So
a
if
doctor?
you just Google the Menopause Society, they actually have a zip code search tool on their
Oh, that's
website
great.
where you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you like what doctors are in your area.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And now they even have like a telemedicine search tool too, so that if you
Yeah.
need a doctor in your state. But yeah, with the testosterone, it's usually better to get it in person,
Yeah.
depending on
Yeah.
where you live.
That's awesome. That's so good to know, though. I mean, like, I love
Yeah,
it.
this
Like, it's
was
just such good information. Thank you so
yeah,
much for
so
this.
much great
Yeah.
information.
Did you have any other questions, Kelly? Maker of
No,
life?
I've learned so much today. This
That's
is
what I'm
so
gonna call you
fun.
from now on. You're not you're Kelly, maker of life. 'Cause it's
I
just
know, holy
have your own life. I
I
love
wanna
it.
have, like, a separate conversation of how
I know, Kelly,
seriously
we
how
do.
that
We
whole
do.
experience was, because I was so fascinated when you said
So
that.
good.
Oh, wow,
Yes.
I'm so interested.
Yeah, that is like the greatest gift you could be giving, and it's like
So
to put
good.
your body through 3 more pregnancies. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It is
Thank
amazing.
you.
I have many friends that had PCOS or weren't able to conceive, and one of mine in particular, she was able to carry, but that was one thing she could do. But I just think fertility in general is just amazing. Like what we can do now to bring life into this world, it's just awesome, you know. But like she adopted an embryo and then was able to have a baby because she tried IVF and just like couldn't make it work, and she was older and all the things, you know. So like it was just so amazing to see all of these ways, you know, that we can learn through her, like all these ways that we can bring life into the world. I just thought it was so cool. So thank you for what you do. It's so great. Both of you, thank you for what you do or have done, you know. I love it.
Well, I'm so grateful to have found the Winona community. It really has been a helpful just this last year and a half, just learning so much and not feeling so crazy. And
Yeah.
even just with even the surrogacy era, like I was afraid to take progesterone and all the things that I had to do to make my body think I was pregnant because I'd heard rumors that I could get cancer. Like so grateful that we've come
Yes.
to this other side, that it's not a scary thing. And just getting to learn from people like Dr. Kat and just the community of itself, asking questions, being able to be real and
Yeah.
being exposed to great podcasts like yourselves to learn even more. So I'm so happy that I got to be here today. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you.
This
Thank you
is
guys so
great.
much for everybody that may want to follow you. Feel free to send me your links. But if you want to tell people where they can learn more or find you, obviously, if you want to sign up for Nona, we have a link. We have a link. But if not, if you're looking
Follow
just for more
everybody.
information to follow them and
Yeah.
learn more, where can people find you?
Sure. For me, I have an Instagram account. It's at Dr. Cat, OBGYN. And I think there's a TikTok and a Facebook and all kinds of stuff because there's a crew at Winona that helps manage all those things.
Yes, I know that crew. They're fantastic.
Yes, they are. They are.
Yes.
And then Kelly, you have an Instagram too that you'd like to share, right?
I do. You can find me at Instagram or LinkedIn at Social Kelly Miller, and I'm a social butterfly. I love getting to know people. I do have a link tree with my Winona, so if you do want to talk to a doctor and connect there, and I highly recommend just poking around and seeing what you can find and how you can get help.
Mhm.
And they have such good educational tools too. So like maybe if you
Yeah.
just want to, well, actually, I haven't asked, can they access these educational tools before their patients?
Yes. So if you go to Winona.com, there's a little sub thing called Learn. And if you open that, like everyone has free access to that. There's medical journal articles on there about every topic you can imagine, every symptom you can imagine. And these are reviewed by me and several of the other doctors, like for medical accuracy, making sure that it's good, legitimate information. You have to be careful because nowadays in the day and age of AI and Googling things, a lot of the content that's written out there is not even written by human beings. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of like fear mongering of HRT that's even being perpetuated on big sites that I would have previously trusted in the past, like the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic. All
Stop.
of their data, when you Google, is all AI generated. It's been written by Chat GPT. It's horrible. Yeah. So
Oh, no.
I know.
Do
So be
better,
careful.
Mayo.
Be
We need
careful.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, just follow Dr. Kat Brown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kelly
Do
Miller.
that.
But yeah, you can find all that educational information. There's lots of free resources like symptom diary things you can download too. Questionnaires. Are you in perimenopause? Like there's a quiz you can take that's free, you know, that before you decide if you want to do treatment or not.
I love that. Yeah, that's what I did. It was great. Yeah, I think that's such a good way to get started, especially when you're just figuring this out. But in terms of the whole idea that this makes your life less or cancer, all of those things, like debunked, guys. Like that for the most part, this is great. You know, so looking into it and seeing if it's right for you, those would be your next steps. Okay. And thank you so much for being here today. And to all of our friends, we will see you next week. Hasta la pasta.
Yeah.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.